Between myself and my team, we've hired over 3,500 sales reps. Those are SDRs who are responsible for doing cold outreach or working inbound leads and booking appointments for account executives, which are folks who are responsible for closing the deals. We have run this sales process a lot. And if you're at the point where you're looking to hire an SDR or an AE, but want to make sure that you're getting a real quality candidate and not just somebody who's really good at selling themselves, then you're going to want to follow this process too. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to do in order to make sure that you hire the right SDR, the right AE every single time. Let's dive right in. So the very first step of any interview process is actually getting a resume. And if you've ever run a job posting, you know you get quite a bit of resumes. So you're going to need to be able to sort through a lot in order to identify who the best possible candidates are. Well, what we do is we send all resume submissions a pre-screening email. It's an email that goes out right when they submit their application that says, thank you for your application. Here are some details to know about our interview process. And then at the very end, it says, if you'd like to make sure that you appear at the top of our inbox, please reply to this email and change the subject line to your name. By doing that, you do a couple of things. One, you filter out candidates who don't even read the email. You want someone who's excited to work there, and when they get an email from your organization, they're going to look at that email. The second thing it does is it gives a little bit of friction because they have to reply to that email and then change the subject line. That friction is enough to weed out a lot of candidates. It might sound small, but in our experience, it leads to 50% of candidates not even replying to the email. So that's half of the resumes that you need to evaluate. Now, once the candidate replies to the email, you review the resume. You take a look at it. If it looks like they could be a good fit, then you're going to schedule the next step, which is a phone screening. If it doesn't look like they're a good fit, then you can send them a rejection email. Now, assuming they're a good fit, you've sent an email to schedule the screening call. Then you actually conduct a screening call. This is very simple. We don't have to be complicated about this. You're just going to talk to the candidate, learn about their experience a little bit more, and make sure that they seem like a good fit within the organization. Assuming it seems like they have a good experience level, they communicate well, they're articulate, they're excited to work at the organization, then you move on to the next step here. Now, the next step we typically recommend is a written exercise. So we actually give SDRs and AEs a written exercise for them to do before they interview with anyone in the organization. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, written communication is incredibly important, and we want to make sure we hire sales reps that do that very well. But the second reason why we do it is because it's another filter. We want candidates that are really excited to work for us, and by adding these little hoops, we're able to get higher quality of talent that is actually moving through our interview process. The written exercise is very simple. You give the candidate an explanation of what you do and what kind of customers that you service. You ask that candidate to find 2 to 3 companies that match your ideal customer profile and write an email that they would send as a first touch point if they were going to reach out to the main decision maker at that company. Now, we are not looking at how good their first email is in terms of fitting best practices of converting your potential customers. That's an added bonus. What I'm really looking for is how well they are able to identify who could be a good fit based on the explanations that you give them. And then the second one is how they structure the email. Are they well written? Do they really communicate effectively over email? The next part is the candidate actually sends you the written exercise completed. And if it looks good, we move on with that candidate. And that's where there are 2 branches of the tree that we could go down. They're either an account executive candidate or a sales development representative candidate. If they are an account executive candidate, then what we're going to do is send them an email to schedule a mock sales call. We do mock sales calls before anybody interviews the candidate. This is because we want to see what they look like at their best. So we schedule a time for them to do a mock sales call with us or a mock demo where they're selling something that they know very well. That's the key there. What does the first sales call look like in their world, selling something they're very comfortable selling? If they can't do that very well, we're not going to schedule a bunch of interviews with them to make sure that they're going to be a good fit at the organization. They can't even sell something they know very well effectively. So that's why we do that on the front end. Now, that's for an account executive. If they're an SDR, we don't do mock cold calls. I'm very confident in our ability to train SDRs to be effective, and I haven't found much correlation between someone being able to do a mock cold call well or poorly and then their actual performance once they're on the team. SDRs need training, they need support. Anyone can really be trained to be an SDR. I care more about their mindset than I do their ability to do a mock cold call on the fly. So I skip that step for SDRs. Now, going back to AEs, once we've done the mock sales call and they have done a good job, now the SDR and AE process meets again and we're scheduling the first interview. This should be with somebody on your team who's not the hiring manager. Should still be somebody important. It might be a manager of another department, maybe on marketing, maybe it's one of the sales team leads, whoever it is. You want to find 2 other people to conduct the interview. We have a process that we follow called Spark. There's going to be a video on our channel about that somewhere if you look it up. That's the evaluation framework we typically recommend. Either way, have at least 2 other people interview the candidate before the hiring manager. Now, once those 2 interviews are complete, then the hiring manager interviews the candidate. That's going to be a lot deeper of an interview because they're going to have this person as one of their direct reports. So that's usually a longer interview. I schedule 30 minutes for the other folks and then an hour for the hiring manager. Assuming everybody gives this person a thumbs up and it passes your evaluation framework, then we're going to go and do reference checks. Yes, we still do reference checks. I get people only give you the best possible reference, but I frame these conversations a little different than normal. Instead of a reference check where I'm trying to see if they're really a good candidate, instead what I'm doing is I'm asking that person to help me prepare to have a very strong onboarding with this person. So I ask, hey, what are some things that you found from working with so-and-so that really helps them do an incredible job? So that way I can make sure that I do it as their manager when they start here. So I frame it as if we're definitely hiring this person and we just want to get some tips on how we can work more effectively with that person. For the most part, you learn really good stuff on how to effectively manage the person, and occasionally you find where their weaknesses might be. Sometimes it impacts the hiring, sometimes it doesn't, but usually once you've gotten to this point, you're with a good candidate. So we don't see a big drop off at this step. And now we really get to the final part of all of this. We make an offer to the candidate. There might be a little bit of negotiating between the 2 of us to figure out like what the exact benefits package is and what the pay should be. But then ultimately we get to a point where the candidate signs that offer letter and we're prepared to onboard the candidate. If you can structure your hiring process in this way, what you're going to find is only the best candidates really make it through to the interviews. So you're wasting a lot less time on candidates that aren't a good fit. And it also gets you the best candidates finally when you do hire them, which is imperative when you're building out a sales team.